You know?
I like that question. I was going to jump in when you started that question, and as you finished it, I had to just give myself a slap and be like,
That's great, yeah.
But I think that's a great caveat to kind of looking at who usually tends to
I was about to ask that exact question. Yes. Let's go there.
Yeah?
I mean, we're going to get cancelled just through this conversation. I kind of feel like it would have been good to have a female representation here because they're not really being spoken for. However, let's continue. So,
see the way it turned.
Alright guys, what's going on? How are we all?
feeling so ready for this conversation, man. So ready.
I feel amazing, but then that's my natural way of being, isn't it? Like, I'm just amazing.
Yeah, we always got to do a little bit of a check-in just before we get into our topic. I think sometimes it's easy to skim over that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm well also. Thank you for asking, guys.
Oh shit.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Though.
We'll get there.
Yeah, of
We're
course.
getting
It was
there.
coming.
Exactly.
It was coming.
But what's brought us here together, otherwise than us obviously being brothers, family, the mentality group, is introspection, right? What is introspection? How to be introspective, and kind of what that looks like anecdotally. Because I suppose there's always going to be anecdotal nuances to stuff like this. But let's first of all start off with what is introspection? What is it for you guys? What do you guys? How do you guys kind of describe it?
Well, Manny.
Like, I think for me, introspection is the ability and the capacity to be able to look and correct within without swaying too far from the natural direction in which you're going. And what I mean by that is this, is many times we're on a journey, where we're going somewhere, right? But because of introspection, we sometimes forget the journey and focus just on the introspection. We need to still be able to go on the journey, but making the little minor adjustments that we need to make in order to complete our mission.
It's interesting that you made it relevant to a journey, as opposed to the self, right?
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting, and I would add to that more of the specific nuances. For me, is to be able to look at yourself objectively, and the outside facet of that being in reference to other people or other things.
Correct,
right?
yeah,
exactly.
Because I think without the capacity to look at yourself in reference to the objective, just purely subjectively, because there's a lot of people that's like that, right?
Yeah.
They judge themselves based on how they experience themselves, and they obviously know their backstory.
Yeah.
But you know, like I always say, like, how do we know if you're, I don't know, tall? It's in reference to other people. How do you know if how much money you got? It's in reference to other people, right? So I think in looking at yourself objectively in reference to other things is the thing I would add to what you just said.
Yeah, no, definitely. Being able to critically assess who we are. And like you said, we can only really do that based on what's happening around us. So often, though, it can be challenging for us to critically assess because our ego doesn't want that to happen. Our ego wants to keep us safe and that, no, we're the king of our kingdom and everything's fantastic, and you know, there's nothing about us we've got to change. But what separates those that are introspective and those that will, I guess, I would say have more that kind of integrity, are more conscious beings, are those that can look at themselves like that, like, objectively, take those corrective steps, and always work towards being better versions of ourselves. And I find that I am definitely on that journey, and I'm always asking myself questions. And I even I watch videos of like Jordan Peterson, for example, and I love the way that he is able to critically assess himself and ask those kind of questions that make you go within, just to see what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, I find that especially like when it comes to relationships, our relationships around us are our greatest mirrors to reflect back at us who we really are. You know, and if we can take that time to look at what people are really saying, without taking it personally as an attack, which I do feel like a lot of us as men do that, you know, then we're able to really to grow.
It's funny, you've kind of semi-answered the question I was going to pose to Manny about the journey, right? In terms of, I was going to say, does introspection have to move in tandem with a journey, right? And you kind of said it with regards to feedback, right? Because it's feedback to something. There needs to be something that you're kind of leaning on to because your introspection will change depending on what it is, right? Whether it pertains to relationship, whether it pertains to family, whether it pertains to something. So the journey of introspection, I suppose it's also a journey, and it's aligned with a journey and a specific task. But yeah, I get like I said, I'm further answering the question myself.
Ask it anyway. Ask it anyway.
As I'm speaking.
Wait.
Journey and introspection, what does that look like for you?
Alright, so my concept of life in totality is the fact that we are a continuously evolving version of ourselves, right? So, and that evolution is consistent of lots of different things. So, our societal stimuluses, our internal environment in terms of family, who we are, and the place we're at holistically, right? And so, as we evolve, we need to always be looking at and listening to the sound bites that are going on within us, and understanding how they bounce off, to use the Dill's phrase, how they bounce off the rest of humanity, to understand whether or not our journey, our path in life is where we understand, or if we understand the path in life that we're going to. And I guess that's what most of people attribute to purpose, right? Is I know what my purpose is, and I'm aligning myself to my purpose. If you're not constantly looking within and understanding where you're at, you don't really know which path you're walking. And so this is it. And so that's where I align introspection to a journey. In order for me to be able to successfully navigate the path that I'm walking on, I need to be constantly checking in with those sound bites within myself to understand, okay, well, am I on the right path or not?
That's my next question was like, why should we be? Why is introspection important?
No.
You know?
I like that question. I like that question. I was going to jump in when you started that question, and then as you finished it, I had to just give myself a slap and be like, no.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, why should we? Do you know what? It's an interesting question, because I feel like introspection can serve lots of different purposes at different times. Yeah. I feel like introspection is good to have in order to, like I said, understand where we stand in the course of humanity. But also there are times when introspection needs to be selfish. It needs to be us taking ourselves away from humanity and saying, okay, cool, am I operating as the best version of myself? And I think oftentimes there's too much noise for us to understand. And so that thing that I was saying about societal, environmental, cultural, racial, religious stimuluses, all those things come into play, and people can't really serve a true inspection of themselves or a true introspective view of themselves.
So you care too much about what people think as well.
Yeah. So I think there is somewhat a selfish element of introspection that needs to be looked at.
It has a greater good.
Yeah, but all in all, it always has to come back and check the box of, am I doing what I need to do in the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things?
It's somewhat of a duality, what you're saying to me, in essence of, they're kind of two of the same in essence, right? Because but the selfish aspects of introspection, like you mentioned, still go back to some sort of an anchor, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, but then again, it doesn't necessarily pertain so much to the collective and the individual aspects of society. But life is a mirror, isn't it, right? Life is a mirror. I feel as if life is constantly giving you feedback, and that is how you kind of exercise introspective capacity, right? Because it's funny, we was having a conversation down here on the way and talking about how do you exercise that, how do you cultivate that, how do you kind of build on that, right? First comes with, being objectively looking at yourself in relation to...
No, the first thing comes with, there's a pain point. I feel like with introspection, before anyone can kind of get to a place where they're ready to be looking at themselves, there's always a trigger.
I think that's the mirror.
Yeah.
I think that's the mirror. In essence, the pain will often be caused by something internal, right? But it's being reflected in, I don't know, a map of yourself up in circumstance, instances, a person, conversation, and then that allows you, because you're either going to go one or two ways in that, right?
Yeah.
In that pain point, you're either going to become a victim, or you're going to allow that to kind of
teach you something, or be a gateway to a lesson.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Can I change the narrative a little bit from pain point?
Let's hear it.
I hear the mufflings. No, I just want to change the narrative, because I think pain point is a negative way of looking at something that can bring growth. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not always pain. Sometimes it's just a moment of solitude, a moment where you're like, okay, well, what am I really contributing to life?
Yeah. But even that is considered, can be seen as a pain point.
It can be, but again, I'm talking about negative narrative and negative connotation, right?
It's down to the
it's how you perceive it.
of the individual, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of introspection, in the sense that, like I said, it's sometimes, if you look at it as like I'm going to look at it as a raw, we're going to use the word pain for a moment.
Yeah.
No man doesn't like it.
No. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm just.
No.
I'm all
There's a
about.
connotation.
Yeah. I'm all about positively positioning.
Framing things, yeah.
Yeah, and framing things so that it's a positive step forward as opposed to wallowing, right? Because I feel like sometimes we can wallow just simply on the words, the verbiage that we use.
It can either become a pain in its true essence, discomfort, something you want to move away from, or a growing pain, something that you actually move into, you lean into that, because you know that at the other side of that hill there is growth, there is development, there is a lot of good to come out of that, right?
Yeah, it is that interpretation. Because I had a situation this morning where I felt like I was judging myself and I was overthinking it, and I could have taken that moment as, oh, woe me, this is the worst, or okay, what do I need to learn from the situation? How do I move forward? How can I use this scenario to build my character rather than take it as steps back? And I'm working with a few of my clients that they feel like they've given up on life and they think there's nothing that they can do, but they have this victim mentality, which where they feel they have no control. But the truth is, we have every ounce of control over our life and how we choose to. It's just a choice. For example, even choice in language, right? I can tell you I love you in English, and it'll give you attach a meaning to it. I can say it in Afrikaans, and you wouldn't understand, so you don't think, what does it matter? So we attach the meaning to stuff. So that means we have control over how we choose to move forward.
There's a Stoic, I can't remember who, Manny, you might know who this is, and I know you follow the Stoics, as do I. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for me, because
like Marcus Aurelius or something.
Yeah, one of those guys. Big up. But it's true, right? Life happens, bad things happen, right? Bad things happen to good people, right? But it's how you kind of respond to that. And I use the word response very meticulously in the sense that a lot of people react to life. And your reaction means that you're not in control at that point, because something's triggered that something's put the battery in your back to act a way that maybe you wouldn't normally act. So a big part of introspection is, for me, is being able to respond to things that happen in your life, and even responding to not only just negative things but also positive things, right? Because again, like you said, life is seasonal, life is cyclical, right? It's not sunny every day, like there's many days of rain, right? And it's how you kind of use those as fuel to kind of keep you going and keep you on the journey, which I identified in the beginning, whether it be your purpose or whatever it is you're trying to achieve in life.
It's interesting that you talk about your clients and how they kind of sometimes look at the fact that we're victims in this situation as to anything, right? But I think that's a great caveat to kind of looking at who usually tends to think
I was about to ask that exact question. Yes. Let's go there.
Yeah, like what kind of people? Is it more the males or the females?
I would add one thing to that.
Yeah, go on.
Before we go to the male female dynamic, I would go as far as to say that it's, and we're going to get back to the main question, it's somewhat, victimship is somewhat even promoted nowadays, right? It's like we champion victims. Oh, this person's been through all this hardship. Oh yeah, look at this guy, he's come through all of this shit. You see it with what's happening even with Johnny Depp and
Amber Heard.
My Girl, Will Smith, My Girl. We're not going to mention their names. We didn't do any more free promo, but yeah, I'd say it's something that's promoted and exists in both. But going back to Manny's question,
I think women take things really personally.
100%.
There we go.
100%. 100%.
You know me.
That's been my experience.
Yeah, you know me. I like to play advocate, so I get you, and they do until they're hurt, and then once they're hurt and devoid. So my experience is there are women who get to a point where they get really hurt, and then it's just like that victim mentality takes them so far to one extremity that they devoid all kind of emotion now. Now it's just, I'm going to do what I want because I've been hurt.
I get that. But I'd go as far as to say it's somewhat of taking away from, going away from it, it's somewhat of a female bias, right? To look at things through their own perspective lens they're self-preserving by nature, right?
Yeah.
It being the more vulnerable sex physically, right? Rearing children, stuff of that nature. Everything's about.
Don't let them come for us, bro.
I know. We don't want to that.
We're about to get
cancelled for us,
today, right? But what I'm saying to you is that they're innately wired to be self-preserving.
Yeah.
So in essence, men is more about the servitude to others, and they're more about self-preservation, right? Which makes the balance, which makes the yin and the yang. So in essence, if you can only look at things from your own perspective, how can you, and everything's subjective, how can you be objective, which is one of the things we first identified is a key to introspection.
Yeah.
So I'd go as far as to say women kind of innately lack the capacity a little bit more than men do. They still have the capacity inside of them, right? But I feel like it's more of an innate male thing, the driver, because of we can look at things from our own perspective and outside, and women necessarily tend to look at things more from their own perspective, which makes it inherently harder for them to be introspective. And then you couple that with them, being the more vulnerable sex, and then it's like, okay, it's easy for them to play the victim role because there's going to be a bunch of men that are going to protect them, cuddle them, and stuff of that nature. So I'd go as far as say, is this in both of us? And I feel like it's like I said, it's pedestalized. But I would say women have more of a bias and a tendency to be that way inclined.
I mean, we're gonna get cancelled just through this conversation. I kind of feel like it would have been good to have a female representation here because they're not really being spoken for. However, let's continue. So,
see the way it turned away quick and
So look, I do feel that just based on just anecdotally, when I try to express something to a woman, even say family members, it is taken very quickly to an attack or something personal, and everything external is responsible for the situation at hand, but I don't know where that comes from. You said that it comes from a place of self-preservation, but how do we navigate that conversation?
It's difficult because I think we live in a world where we try to conceptualize everything through conversations, and I feel like a lot of the times, if men are the more rational, pragmatic, we're more that way hinged, right? Like I could say something to Manny in a way that he didn't like, but he could still take from that and be like, okay, I hear you, bro. Do you understand? And because women are a little bit more emotionally hinged, it's more about the small nuances of what you're saying, your tonage, your intonation.
It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
But this is what I'm saying. So with regards to communicate with them, even with regards to that, if we try to communicate at the same level we communicate as men, a lot of it would be lost in translation anyway.
So can we be sorry Dale, can we be a little bit more critical in our analysis then? So we're saying that men are introspective and women are not.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think it's a sliding scale naturally.
But
I think in our bias, let's say we took away we talked about social influence and all these other factors. If we took those things away, I think in our base nature, we are a little bit more introspective naturally by nature.
Yeah, because I know men equally that they will never look at themselves.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah,
so do I. Absolutely.
Equally, I know a lot of women, especially in the kind of conscious sphere, right?
Look at themselves a lot.
That are looking at themselves, and they are doing the work, and they are getting therapy. They are speaking to they're writing manifestations and affirmations, and they're looking at where could they improve. But I think it's like a 1% thing. I think it's.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't know about you lot, but experientially, those kind of women, the woke ones, generally I tend to find sometimes, and again, this is anecdotally, I tend to find sometimes some of them can be very difficult to have conversations with because they've gone from one extreme to the other. They're so woke that now it's like nothing you say.
So woke that now they're asleep.
But even that's a sliding scale, and is that a reflection on you then? So what is it about them, or that way that occurs? That affects you. So what is that showing in you?
Oh, it could be what? Yeah, exactly. What is that showing in me? Right?
Inside.
Is it? Yeah. But that's the thing. That's the question I ask myself. Is it me? Is it me being
closed?
No. Yeah, but you see, when we talk about introspection, I'm one of those kind of people where anecdotally, I'm just like, you can say whatever to me, and I'll take from it what works for me and what doesn't, and that's just the way it is. But I just, in terms of the exchange, not so much what is said, it's so much the exchange, that there are sometimes walls built when somebody is so woke, that it's like, okay, well, my reality before this was this, my reality now is this, and you can't.
Therefore, because they tend to not see their likeness in other people anymore.
Yeah, there's no conversation to be had. We can't we can't chop it up because you're like, here, I'm in this space and this is the only space I'm choosing to operate in now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you made yourself the prophet of your own life.
Which I can respect to some degree, but then what it is, it doesn't allow for openness, right?
Right.
We're not always trying to, you don't have to convince someone of your way of being, we can all exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like when people go through those, it kind of become a way which is quite extreme in any direction, that allows for only separation.
So the question then is that introspection, or is that just cause and reaction, a reaction to a cause?
Yeah, I think it's an effect of extreme introspection.
But you know what, I'd even go as far as to say it's a bit of a human condition to be on one end or the other, because it somewhat creates understanding, right? It's like people like us understand that everything is kind of is and isn't at the same time.
Yeah.
But for most people, they want to be consistent with one thing or the other, right?
So
I'm introspective or I'm ignorant, right?
Yeah.
For example, and yeah, I think it's something that we all kind of have to some degree, but I think learning to be kind of lukewarm about something. I always say, one of my sayings that I say is, you got to be open-minded to closed-mindedness, which is a duality in itself, but it's true, right? Because there's something, like you said, you speak about, your faith and stuff like that, and how certain things, I don't want to explore that thing.
Oh, yeah.
The door shut on that.
Yeah.
And I'm very much like that as well, right? And there's other things where you can open and have the conversation, but like you said, it's when it becomes one of the extremes that it can sometimes be counterproductive to being interested.
Do you find that one's tribe is a huge contributor to how introspective somebody is, right? And I say that to say this. We talk about women being a little bit more vulnerable, being a little bit more emotionally yoked, right? I tend to find that a lot of women will lean on their tribe to kind of determine how much introspection they should have and what the direction that introspection is. But I don't know if I'm speaking anecdotally or if you guys also have experienced the same thing. So the question is, do you find that one's tribe, and I find that some men are the same way as well. The more voices you hear, the lesser your own internal murmurings.
I guess they're voicing their, rather than speaking to themselves, they're speaking to their peers.
Yeah.
And that's the collective voice,
But the danger is when the peers then speak into them. Yeah. Because then, how much introspection is there actually?
That's what I mean, there isn't any.
I'd even add to say that their peers are probably share the same likeness as them anyway.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just reaffirms your own bias, right?
Yeah.
And I think it starts with the introspective individuals in the pack, right?
Yeah.
Like you see us, we sit down and we like I said, Manny's the king of devil's advocate, right?
Like, we don't deal with devils out here.
Astaghfirullah.
All of that.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's true, but that's important. Even if he agrees with my general consensus, but let's just get you thinking in a slightly different way. And that's important, but I feel like that's a byproduct of an introspective nature and inclination. Whereas if you're not around people if you're around people that tend on more the ignorant side of the scale, they're going to reaffirm that ignorant bias. Like, no, it's not XYZ, it's that person, and it's up putting the fingers outward bound, right? So tribe is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the tribe that I've built, I've not always had people around me that have been able to be open and look within themselves and I guess haven't necessarily been the best influence. So yeah, it has definitely influenced me negatively in a way that was detrimental to my growth and my success and my moving forward. And I definitely see that when it comes to, for example, I've had women in the past come to me and they said, I spoke to my girlfriend and she said this, and I'm like, cool, is that your voice or is that theirs? Like, what do you really think? And I ask this question, like, take away everything, like, what do you really think, and go inside, So like, I guess I want to move this conversation towards a place of like, how do we become more introspective?
That's one of your things, though, isn't it? Like, just kind of taking away everything and being more focused on. So yeah, I was just saying, I tend to find with you, you like to do this thing where you devoid all other kind of I like to call them stimuluses, but all other things that contribute to your way of thinking, and just isolate yourself in terms of looking within and seeing what it is that you're dealing with, so that you can, you articulate it better than me, but you talk about kind of getting to the truth and nature of something.
Yeah. In essence, kind of taking away all the social stimuluses, like you said, and kind of looking at what I would do in my base nature, in absence of all those things. So that obviously judicial ramification reaction is a big thing. social ramifications of the action, right? It would be judgment, shame, stuff of that nature. How would I truly be in this same instance? And then what I do is I layer that then with my reintegration to society, right? So first of all, thinking out what I would do just left to my own devices, right? And then how can I kind of be my truest representation of that in and amongst society? Because if I don't integrate myself back into society,
you're just standing alone. You're an anomaly.
That's going to be the can, you know what I'm saying, bro? So yeah, I think that's what I do for me, but that takes a lot of exercise and a lot of practice. So I suppose, going back to Dill's original question, how do we become introspective? I wouldn't even make people start there. I would just start with just silent time, meditation.
Exactly.
It's quiet time. Spending time out away from. And when I say meditation, it doesn't mean you're sitting there like I'm in the corner with your eyes closed. It's more so a case of just sitting in your silence and sitting in your solitude and just seeing what comes up in your mind. That for me would be a form of the base form of meditation.
Agree. Spend time alone, and it's something that it can be quite scary to do that.
Yeah.
Because when you're left alone with your thoughts, then
Yeah.
you can go to dark places, and I've been to dark places, But I feel like it's so necessary, and I do feel like as men we can typically go through like points of, I know you don't like it, but points of pain and things that will trigger us, and we have to go there. But what I see more often than anything, and I've been this guy, is we look to coping mechanisms to mask what's really going on rather than going inside.
Yeah.
Listen, that's why it's important that we have these kind of conversations.
I agree with both of you, and because I agree with both of you, I would say just jumping straight in and being alone, it's not for everyone.
No.
As Adil said, you can go, and even for somebody who, like myself, like if I take myself as an example and talking anecdotally, I'm in a place where I personally will class myself as very introspective, right? But because I class myself as very introspective, sometimes when I get in environments where I'm alone, I take myself to those deep places. So even as somebody who has developed that skill, I'll say it kind of is a very, very tumultuous place to be. So my thing would be, don't just start by going and sitting alone. My thing will be, find somebody, whether, again, we're advocates for therapy or counseling or coaching. That's why we have coaches on the team and so on and so forth. Find someone who can kind of guide your quiet journey and train your mind into such a place where you're okay being alone and you're okay dealing with some of those dark places, yeah? Because unless you do that, you can end up in a very, very right, and that kind of goes two ways, right? That can look like somebody kind of going down a whirlwind and having really bad thoughts about things to do to themselves or other people, or somebody going into a place where they want to damage everyone that's ever hurt them, and we don't ever want to advocate that. Yeah. So yes, be introspective. Yes, take moments to meditate and be in your quiet space, but learn to be guided on that journey.
What would you say then to those that can't afford those sorts of services? Like, let's say there's a financial barrier. How can we? Because let's break it even down to like, because I'm big on like barriers to entry for me as well, right? And for me, I would say like something. And the reason why I go to like meditation, for example, right, is because it doesn't cost you anything. You can do it anywhere, right? But you talked about being guided.
Yeah, seek mentors.
And I share that. I agree. But how can you do that?
Like, what you can look up to, you can see someone and think, okay, he or she embodies something which is what I would like, how they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves, maybe they're successful, whatever it's going to be. You can see people around you that embody what it is that you might want to be, or how you want to be. I have mentors. One of my mentors, he's like a 56, 57-year-old Pakistani guy, owns like a whole set of Domino's chains, and he's my coach. Yeah. I don't pay him. We've become friends. We used to work together, and he kind of just taken me under his wing, and I seek counsel from him. And he's taught me some of the greatest things, and just through conversation. Like you said about tribe earlier, tribe is so important, but you can see which people are good for you, which of those that aren't. You can feel within you, and that's also where introspection comes in. You can feel into what's really, when you're with this person, how do they make you feel? Do they make you feel worse? Do they make you feel better? Do they make you question yourself? And you have to have that discernment on who you keep around. Yeah. And I think that's so key. So you haven't always got to pay for it, but like, for example, I keep you guys around, not because you're just, part of the
handsome young men.
I don't know about
Barlet generals.
I'm carrying the flag for that one. Anyway, because I know I can have a conversation with you guys, and I know that you guys won't sugarcoat anything with me. You tell me how it is. Yeah. And I value that. You know, and I think we all deep down want that from our relationships.
To expand on what Adil said, so seek mentors, but the way you do it is just ask. Just ask. A lot of people, the concept of mentorship is very, very large for a lot of people.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
And people don't want to admit their vulnerability, so they kind of shy away. But just simply ask. Yeah, simply ask. Somebody you respect, listen, can I just talk to you every now and then? I don't need anything from you, I just need you to lend me your ear for half an hour, 45 minutes, every week, every 2 weeks, whatever the regularity of it may be, and then do that. And then in doing that, onto what Adil said, start understanding what you want your tribe to look like, right? Build your tribe and kind of expand on there. To answer your question even more so, if you don't want to go to that level and you want to start at home, we spoke earlier on, just between the two of us, about access to information, right? There are really amazing guided meditations on Spotify, on YouTube. Start at home, but have it guided, right? Positivity, for whatever vertical you're looking at, whether it be work, socially, relationship. There are guided meditations to this.
Listen, even just taking part or even watching and listening to conversations like this.
Yeah.
You know, be actively part of more introspective conversations.
100%.
You know, so you can take on the lessons or the learnings, or even some kind of lesson from that. At least you'll go away. Like a lot of our podcast and the events we've run, not everyone speaks, but I'm sure they go away and they will think about the things that were said.
We get that a lot from people when they come. They're like, you really kind of
you ignited something
gears rolling.
Yeah.
But even like something very simple, and this is a takeaway, is start writing affirmations, because by writing what you feel, journaling, something like that causes you by default to take a step and start looking within.
They're not even affirmations. Yeah. Just write down your thoughts.
Journal, I
do it every morning. After meditation, I just write down, I do a brain dump, as I call it. Everything that's going through my mind, like for 5 minutes, it's got no kind of structure whatsoever. Just jot it onto paper.
Yeah.
I don't even look at it, I just put it to one side. Sometimes I might look back and think, damn, that was really consuming me. Or like I look across it for the week, I'm like, okay, this theme came up every single day.
Yeah. So what do I need to work on? Yeah. So I think that's a great start. Yeah. Write it down.
Do you journal?
I don't journal, but I write down things a lot. So I always carry a notebook, and there's always either my iPad or my notebook by my bedside. Sometimes, and because the way I am, I'm very like on the go all the time, and I don't sleep much. So sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, like 2-3 o'clock, and my mind's racing because I've dreamt about something or something from the time, and so I have to like literally jot it down. I wake up in the morning and look at it. Sometimes it might be utter bullshit, to be honest. But
I do half asleep, bro.
Yeah, but other times I actually come back and I realize that there is so much substance in what I wrote down because I'm in that deep meditative state of sleep, and I've come out of it and I've written it and I'm like, oh right, okay, that explains what I felt before. That's a result of something that I thought last week, or so
your dreams are very can really give you a lot of feedback as well.
Yeah, hugely.
And I'm not going to go into the small nuances of things, but typically, generally speaking, right? What's the trending theme of those dreams? Are you always running away from something? Are you always running and can't get away? You know, there's like a little meme and a joke that goes around of like I'm running in my dream is like running in the Matrix or some shit, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that tells you that what are you running away from in your life? What is behind you that you feel like you can't get away from?
Yeah.
That gives you massive feedback. So even like you said, even dreaming and waking up, they say you should actually write down your dreams anyway.
Yeah.
When you wake up, you should first thing, as soon as you get up, because normally the memory of it fades, right? Write it down, and then again you can look over that and have that reference and go back and work through it. But yeah, dreams is a.
And I think on that note, I think that's a great point with which to leave it with our audience, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Is to actually find out what is the things that you think about. How do you, one, what is the things you think about? Secondly, what do you meditate on and how? And thirdly, like, do you write down your dreams and what do you get from them?
Yeah, also look at what triggers you.
Yeah.
Look at the things that annoy you, piss you off, or whatever it's going to be. These are great areas for you to then start looking within. Yeah.
Final thoughts, Corey.
Be more introspective.
Yeah.
Just the guys?
Be more introspective.
Everyone.
Just the guys?
Everyone.
Especially the women.
Don't shy away from introspective people.
Yeah.
They might trigger you. Don't shy away from them.
Adil, Final thoughts?
Yeah, that was that. Don't shy away from introspective people, and
Yeah.
you know, don't be afraid to reach out for people that you could see as a mentor and a coach. Don't think you have to have like pay anyone for something. You can do this with other people around you.
And then from me, I would say have moments of quietness, but make those moments of quietness structured. Don't just go into it and think I'm just going to sit here and just listen, because you don't want to find yourself in places where you're having to battle yourself to navigate. Yeah, so have moments of quietness and structure those.
Disclaimer, we're not going to be held accountable for anybody that doesn't advise themselves based on what we said.
But you do have 3 coaches sitting here, so if anyone does want advice or wants to
Reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out. Where can they find us?
Well, we're on the mentality page. Mentality under what men?
Men_tality podcast
There we go.
on Instagram. We also have a LinkedIn handle.
We do.
And yeah, just like I said, reach out. We're extending the conversation to you guys. It's
Yeah.
not just, these are not our siloed conversation, our siloed thoughts.
I need to
Space
learn
you
this.
can come to and speak to anyone of us.
And this is the business side. So for those that want to support us, reach out and let us know, because we'd like to get this out to more and more people, have more and more of these kind of conversations, and who knows, maybe invite some of you down to come and share your thoughts as well. No?
Thank you
But
guys so much.
From me, Manny,
And from me, Adil.
Me, the father.
Corey, we bless you, we thank you, and
Thanks for
see you
listening.
on the next episode.